All right, now where are we at? Oh, Big Pookie. Oh, we already saw Big Pookie's shit. We saw that Instagram. Saw it earlier. So thank you, Big Pookie, for that one. Umbrella Corporation, I don't really appreciate you kind of giving me the switcheroo and forcing me to look at that 9/11 postcard that was addressed to me. I don't really appreciate that, but anyway. Hey, wait a minute. Another one by Santa? I mean, what the fuck, Santa? Didn't even say anything. Here it is, Ghost. Oh, I don't even know why I took the PC shot out here. Put the PC shot back on. Put it on! Here it is. Santa didn't say anything. The hell is this? This audio is from the Hour of Time radio show, which aired on June 28th, 2001. Well, Santa must be a little woke when it comes to this, because I was just describing this. Oh, Jesus Christ. This guy, who is William Cooper, was a guy that Alex Jones legitimately ripped off. And on June 28th, he talks about... I listened to this on June 28, 2001, and... this was a kind of a ham radio type of a radio show that was relayed all over the fucking place. So you had to kind of be in a very, you had to have some kind of a reception, you know? On June 28, 2001, he talks about the guy, John Miller, that I discussed earlier, that I said that he's a fucking black operative CIA agent. He talks about how conveniently he was able to find bin Laden. And this is where Bill Cooper on June 28th said that watch out for a big style terrorist attack. And he understood all the hallmarks of it, etc. And he predicted 9/11 on this broadcast. So look at Santa. He knows a thing or two about a thing or two. You know what I mean?
On CNN today, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it? Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden took a television...
No, it was not Peter Arnett. This is actually wrong. It was actually John Miller. Although Peter Arnett, I don't know if you remember Peter Arnett, he was the guy, and he didn't work for CNN. He actually worked for MSNBC. Okay, I don't know, whoever's making this video has got it a little wrong. Because Peter Arnett was the guy that was the MSNBC on-the-scene correspondent in Iraq during the Iraq invasion in 2002. And Peter Arnett said something very controversial that kicked him out of journalism during that. He said... something pro-Iraqi during his coverage of the Iraq invasion by the United States. And then after that, Peter Arnett, you never heard from him again. So this is actually wrong. I don't know why they're showing Peter Arnett. Peter Arnett did not interview bin Laden. It was actually John Miller, the guy that we saw earlier. So just FYI, this is not accurate information.
Camera crew with him went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, his top lieutenants and colonels and generals in their hideout.
We begin with the story of a shadowy multimillionaire who has declared a holy war against the United States. To some in the Islamic world, he is a hero. To the United States government...
okay, well, you see, this is 1997... And believe it or not, this looks like it may be before the SS Cole bombing, because that's what introduced bin Laden. Well, they claim that bin Laden had something to do with Black Hawk Down. I don't think so. Okay? Those were fucking Somalian fucking heart-eating fucking weirdos that did that, and it was a bad black CIA operation, similar to Benghazi. I mean, Black Hawk Down was similar to Benghazi. In 1997, This was actually, if they're gonna quote Peter Arnett, yes, Peter Arnett did interview bin Laden, but he wasn't the interview that happened that summer of 2001. You see, he obviously interviewed him in 97. That was before the USS Cole, and this is the building of who bin Laden became. Because bin Laden came out in like 96. And from 96 and this media building of this character up until 2001 is what created this whole Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, that sort of thing.
Though he is a terrorist, a real threat to the lives of U.S. troops. He is Osama bin Laden, and Impact's Peter Arnett takes us into his hideaway and into his mind.
Yeah, you see, this is in 97. There was a fucking interview by John Miller in the summer of 2001. Look up that interview, John Miller, Osama bin Laden. That was a 2001 interview, and literally months after that interview, this fucking guy supposedly was in charge of the 9/11 attacks.
With this first ever television interview.
This is a CNN reporter with a camera crew. And he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel.
No, you see, this is 97. This is the wrong interview, dude. Okay, great. They interviewed bin Laden in 97. It was actually rather easy to find bin Laden in 97. Because remember, in 96, okay, do y'all remember the Mogadishu shit? They tried to blame it on bin Laden. They also blamed the bombing in Nairobi, I believe it is, of a barracks on bin Laden. And because of that, supposedly, the Saudi Arabians kicked him out of Saudi Arabia. And when he got kicked out of Saudi Arabia, he wasn't in Afghanistan at this point. I forgot what country he was in. But the reason that he was in that country was because he was taking his wealth and actually being very generous in building shit and that sort of thing. And once he got ejected from... This is the story. Truth be told, bin Laden is a part of all this CIA bullshit, okay? I mean, you have to know. On 9/11, 2001, when the attacks happened, and the media started blaming it on bin Laden, the true man that orchestrated this black operation, George Bush Sr., was in a investor meeting from the Carlyle Group. Look up the Carlyle Group. On 9/11, 2001, George Bush Sr. was meeting with the bin Laden family amongst the other investors in the Carlyle Group at the same time 9/11 happened. So the bin Laden family, believe it or not, they're deep in this international black operative operation. And by the way, one thing that Fahrenheit 9/11, that fat piece of fucking trans-testicle shit, Michael Moore, did get right in his Fahrenheit 9/11 is that while all the damn flights were grounded after 9/11, the only flights that were eligible or allowed to fly were the planes that were picking up all the bin Laden family, that a lot of them lived out here, picked them all up, and flow them to safety in Saudi Arabia. Now, if bin Laden, Osama, was the culprit behind this 9/11 attack, why the fuck did we send the bin Laden family, while all air traffic was grounded, which is unprecedented, why were they allowed to get the only planes out of the country and rounded up? When this is supposedly the family that's connected to the fucking culprit supposedly behind 9/11. Those fucking people should have been interrogated. Those people should have been put into fucking Guantanamo Bay, if you want my fucking opinion. But of course they weren't. And nobody asks any questions. Nobody talks about it. Play it.
Amidst these remote mountains of Afghanistan are the various hiding places of one of the world's...
What William Cooper, okay, the guy that's in the radio show, is talking about is not this fucking interview. All right, it's the John Miller interview. Fucking look up John Miller and the Bin Laden interview. It was literally months before the 9/11 attacks. It was like fucking May or something when John Miller was able to find Bin Laden by the time he was in Afghanistan to be able to, to be able to fucking interview him in his fucking hideout when the military-industrial complex was fucking looking for him.
Most wanted men.
Here, give me a
Osama
drink.
bin Laden.
We declared a jihad, a holy war, against the United States government because it is unjust, criminal, and tyrannical.
Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. The FBI also, under the leadership of Louis Freeh, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years and years and years and many years, and can't find him. Some doofus jerk off.
Now, this guy, William Cooper, who is talking here, believe it or not, his house was raided on 9/11/2001. So this guy was talking about this and, discussing this prior to the whole 9/11 attack. And William Cooper, his house was raided on 9/11/2001. So just FYI.
Order with a camera crew, waltzes right into his hideout and interviews him.
A year ago, bin Laden took refuge here in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is perhaps the only country in the world that will accept him.
Our quest to meet bin Laden begins in Peshawar, Pakistan, and then across the Khyber Pass to Jalalabad, Afghanistan, where we wait for several days. Finally, bin Laden's media advisor arrives. We are allowed to take our lights and sound equipment, but not our camera. There have been assassination attempts against bin Laden, and his security force worries our camera might contain a tracking device that would give away his location.
It's too bad that Maksud, the person that was leading the Afghan Northern Alliance, wasn't so careful about checking cameras, once again, the day before 9/11. Now, for all those that don't know who Maksud is, Maksud was the guy in Afghanistan that was the leader of the Northern Alliance that was against the Taliban and that was against bin Laden. And on September 10th, he was goaded, no pun intended, by a couple of supposed journalists who wanted to interview him. And as they were setting up the interview, there was a camera that they were setting up right in front of Maksud, and it blew up and killed the assassins and Maksud, which put the Northern Alliance in a very precarious situation, supposedly. And that's, what prohibited the Northern Alliance from going at the Taliban variants that were supposedly housing bin Laden.
The interview will be conducted with their camera. As best as we can reconstruct it, this is the route that we took to meet
I'm going to
bin
let you
Laden.
listen. Listen for yourself, dude.
We are put in a minivan with curtained windows and drive west. As night falls, we move to a four-wheel drive vehicle that makes its way up a rough mountain path past checkpoints manned by heavily armed men. We are searched and electronically scanned to ensure that we're not carrying a tracking device. About 5,000 feet up is a small hut. We are allowed about an hour and a half with bin Laden. We have submitted questions in advance. He agrees to answer most of them, but does not allow follow-up questions.
Mr. bin Laden, you have declared a jihad against the United States. Can you tell us why?
The U.S. government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the U.S. is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq. Due to its subordination to the Jews, the arrogance of the United States regime has reached the point that they occupied Arabia, the holiest place of the Muslims, who are more than 1 billion people in the world today. For this and other acts of aggression and injustice, we have declared jihad against the U.S.
Is the jihad directed against the U.S. government or United States troops in Arabia? What about U.S. civilians in Arabia or the people of the United States?
We have focused our declaration of jihad on striking at the U.S. soldiers inside Arabia, the country of the two holy places, Mecca and Medina. In our religion, it is not permissible for any non-Muslim to stay in Arabia. Therefore, even though American civilians are not targeted in our plan, they must leave. We do not guarantee their safety.
Now, that tells us two things. Either everyone in the intelligence community and all of the intelligence agencies of the United States government are blithering
laws of
idiots
deduction
and incompetent fools, including the entire apparatus of the FBI and all of their personnel, or they're lying to us. They're not looking for him at all. And
they're not.
Second,
his fucking code name was Tim Osman, dude. I mean, listen.
Bin Laden.
Oh, you see that footage of Bin Laden there? Okay, go back. All right, look at this footage of Bin Laden. This is the only footage they supposedly have Osama Bin Laden, which looks like a completely different fucking guy from the Mujahideen days during the time in which the Russians had invaded Afghanistan. And we had a black operation recruiting Arabs from the Middle East to transplant them to Afghanistan to commit jihad on the Russians. This is known as the Mujahideen. Now, how did they recruit all these fucking Arabs to go and transplant themselves into Afghanistan? Well, they had a propagandist journalist in the Middle East that was very popular by the name of, well, I'll tell you later. Play it. People don't give a shit.
Osama bin Laden. They recruited him. They trained him. They found his leadership. They brought them all together. They showed them how to fight the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and when that was over, they still continued to fund him and train him, and they're now using him to help bring about world government by making him the big boogeyman because they can't use.
Okay, so some people are asking, who are you talking about, Ghost? Who are you talking about? I'm talking about Jamal Khashoggi. Okay, Jamal Khashoggi is who I'm talking about. Jamal Khashoggi, the guy that's like, the Arab, the Saudi Arabians assassinated Jamal Khashoggi, and it's such a fucking travesty to fucking humanity and all this fucking bullshit, right? Dude, I have an article. Okay, put the PC shot on. I've got an article here that I wrote back in 2018, Jamal Khashoggi and the Secret War Within the CIA. Jamal Khashoggi was an asset to the CIA, and here is his articles, written in English. This is an article from Jamal Khashoggi. Arab youths fight shoulder to shoulder with Mujahideen. And this was a way of attracting young Arabs who were kind of misguided and wanted to practice jihad, that were very fanatical in Islam. This is how they recruited these Arabs. Look at it. Arab youths fight shoulder to shoulder. And guess who you see there? That's Osama bin Laden. But guess what? He wasn't known as Osama bin Laden back then. Here is Jamal Khashoggi, who is supposedly this fucking, he's a journalist. It's not fair. He's holding an RPG, and he's like sitting there with the fucking Mujahideen. This is his article. All right, hold on. I got to fucking turn this off. And fuck you, Underdog, you fucking stupid piece of shit. But anyway, this is him. And who was Osama bin Laden? Here is his tweet. when Osama bin Laden was dead, when he was killed. You know? Aside from the snapshot of Osama, this is him in his article, Jamal Khashoggi was a longtime friend of Osama bin Laden. Khashoggi interviewed him many times, and he was so close to bin Laden that he once tried to supposedly convince Osama to quit violence. And there's the link to that. Khashoggi even mourned bin Laden's death when he was killed by U.S. Special Forces, wink, wink, supposedly. And there it is right there. So the point I'm trying to make is, folks, is that during the time in which Khashoggi created the myth of bin Laden, he created this myth. I mean, bin Laden would not be who he was had Jamal Khashoggi not been a fucking propagandist for the fucking CIA and the Saudi Arabian fucking black ops and all this other shit. And by the way, moreover, the picture on the right-hand side of the media birth legend of Abu Abdullah, a.k.a. Osama bin Laden. So this guy, this legend out here who is supposedly Osama bin Laden, he's not even known as Osama bin Laden at this point. He's known as Abu Abdullah. So I'm just saying, dude, I mean, if you don't believe that fucking Osama bin Laden and shit is a fucking goddamn CIA operative, or at least a Saudi intelligence operative, and also I want to add that Bandar Bush, which was the head of Saudi intelligence, the reason I'm calling him Bandar Bush, because Prince Bandar was so close to the Bushes that he would spend holidays with the Bushes, Bandar Bush. And Prince Bandar, was the head of Saudi intelligence. And, I mean, he helped coordinate it. He helped create this guy, you know?
Did you ever hear of Osama bin Laden before you heard of Saddam Hussein?
Nope.
When did you start hearing of Osama bin Laden? It was after Saddam Hussein and Iraq were supposedly neutralized in the Gulf War, because they needed a new boogeyman. But they're not looking for Osama bin Laden, because I'm telling you right now, if I were the head of the Central Intelligence Agency, within 2 weeks I would have him dead or in custody without fail. Without fail.
I mean, it's really not hard.
If I had those assets and that money, he would be mine. I would own his terrorist ass within 2 weeks without fail. A reporter from CNN and his little camera crew got in to Osama bin Laden's secret hideout and conducted an interview. If you don't believe me, tune into CNN. They're probably running it right now as I'm speaking. And if you believe it, you are one of the stupidest jerks that ever lived on the face of this earth.
Well, they believed it. They believe everything, William
and
Cooper.
Whatever is going to happen that they're going to blame on Osama bin Laden, don't you even believe it.
Yeah, you know, that's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying, man. They believed it, dude. You know, they all believed it. Anyway, thank you, Santa. That was actually one of the decent videos that you actually fucking requested. I'll be honest with you, all right?